I want you to just try and picture a movement of people so massive that the numbers, they almost stop making
Right.
sense.
It's a scale that's hard to grasp.
We are talking about billions of individual journeys. It's a migration where, the number of trips taken between cities is actually more than the entire population of China.
It's staggering. And this isn't some kind of displacement from a disaster or a war.
No.
It happens every single year, like clockwork. This massive movement has a name. It's called Qiyun.
And for about 40 days, it is, without a doubt, the logistical heartbeat of the entire planet.
It truly is. It's the single largest annual migration of human beings on Earth. And it's all converging on one very specific purpose.
Which brings us to our subject today.
We're looking at the Chinese New Year, which is officially known in China as the Spring Festival, or Chunji. And you have to understand, this is not just a holiday.
Not at all.
It's really a civilization-level event. It marks the end of winter, the beginning of spring, and its cultural weight is just immense. So immense, in fact, that just recently, in 2024, it was formally recognized.
Ah, by UNESCO.
Yes, inscribed on the UNESCO representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity.
That UNESCO recognition really does feel like it was a long time coming, especially given the history we're about to get into. But before we dive into that timeline, we should probably address the name itself. You said Chunji or Spring Festival, but internationally, I think most of us hear Lunar New Year, and there seems to be a bit of tension there.
There's a really significant nuance in the naming. So in China, going back to 1914, the standard official term has been Spring Festival.
Since 1914, so that's a modern change?
It was a political decision, actually. It was proposed by Yuan Shikai, who was the interim president of the Republic of China. The whole idea was to modernize the calendar, to separate this traditional agrarian celebration from the official New Year of the Gregorian calendar, January 1st.
And the People's Republic of China just kept that naming convention.
They did. Interestingly, the Republic of China government, which of course relocated to Taiwan, they later adopted the name Traditional Chinese New Year instead. So there are layers even there.
But it's the term Lunar New Year that seems to cause the friction these days.
Yes. Lunar New Year is meant to be the inclusive term used internationally because this calendar system is shared. It's celebrated as Seolal in Korea, Tut in Vietnam.
So it makes sense to use a broader term.
You'd think so. But in recent years, there has been a pushback from some corners of Chinese public opinion. They see removing the word Chinese from the name as a kind of de-Sinicization, an attempt to erase the cultural origin.
And we saw this actually flare up pretty recently.
We did, just in 2025 with that tea brand, Soji. They used Lunar New Year in their marketing materials, and the backlash on Chinese social media was immediate and very severe.
To the point where they had to issue an apology.
An urgent apology, and they changed the wording back. It just goes to show you, this isn't just about what you call a date on a calendar. It's about cultural ownership, about identity.
Speaking of the calendar, let's get into the mechanics of how that date is actually set. Because, for an outsider who just uses a Gregorian calendar, the holiday seems to just drift. It's wild. One year it's late January, the next it's the middle of February. Why so much variance?
It only seems random if you're not seeing the solar component. You have to remember, the traditional system is a lunisolar calendar.
Lunisolar, so not just lunar.
Not just lunar, exactly. A purely lunar year is about 354 days long. That's roughly 11 days shorter than a solar year.
So if you only followed the moon, the dates would slip backwards.
Precisely. The whole calendar would drift through the seasons until you were, celebrating Spring Festival in the middle of summer, which makes no sense.
So it has to correct itself somehow.
And it does. It anchors itself to the sun using what are called solar terms. The calendar defines the month that contains the winter solstice as the 11th month. From there, the new year is usually the second new moon after that solstice.
And that keeps it in the right season.
It does. In about 96% of years, this date aligns perfectly with the solar term called Lichin, which literally marks the beginning of spring. And that is why it always falls somewhere between January 21st and February 20th. It's this beautiful, ancient mathematical attempt to reconcile the cycles of the moon with the Earth's orbit around the sun.
That mathematical structure is what holds the festival in place, but I think the emotional core of it all, that comes from somewhere much older and much less scientific.
It comes from mythology.
Specifically a monster story.
The legend of the Ninian. This is the absolute foundational myth. Ninian is typically described as this beast that lived either under the sea or deep in the mountains.
It
And
looked like a lion?
it's sort of a lion, but with horns, and it was a man-eater. The really interesting part is that the character for Nian, it's the exact same character that's used for the word year.
So the year itself was a monster.
In a way, yes. The story goes that on the eve of the new year, this beast would emerge to devour villagers, and it had this horrific preference for children.
That sounds like a pretty grim origin for what is now a huge celebration.
Well, it began as a ritual of survival. Villagers would flee into the mountains to hide, absolutely terrified. The whole story changes when an old man shows up.
And he's not what he seems.
Not at all. He's revealed to be a deity in disguise, and he refuses to hide. Instead, he demonstrates that the Nian have these very specific sensory weaknesses.
It's afraid of certain things.
Terribly afraid of the color red.
Yeah.
And it absolutely cannot stand loud noises.
Which, okay, that explains the complete sensory overload of the modern festival.
It explains everything. The red lanterns you see everywhere, the red paper couplets they paste on the doors, the red clothing everyone wears, all of it. These are the visual shields they use to repel the beast.
And the noise, the firecrackers.
The firecrackers, the drums, the gongs, they're the sonic weapons. The myth says that the Ninian was eventually captured by a Taoist monk, a figure named Hongzhu Lao Tzu, but the ritual remained. What you're seeing every year is technically a massive, coordinated reenactment of a monster defense strategy.
So if we move on from the myth and into the actual recorded history, the biography of this holiday is incredibly long. And it didn't even start as a New Year celebration, did it?
No, not at all. The earliest roots we can find are actually in the harvest. If you go back and look at the classic of poetry, which is from the Western Zhou period, we're talking 3,000 years ago,
Wow.
there are descriptions of celebrations that took place in the 10th month of the ancient solar calendar. It was an autumn festival.
So what did they do?
The texts describe people cleaning their millet stacks, slaughtering lambs for a feast, and making toasts with rice wine, or mijiu, to their masters. It was all about closing out the agricultural cycle for the year.
So when did that shift happen? When did it go from being a kind of harvest home party to a ritual about time and warding off spirits?
You start to see that shift during the Warring States period, specifically in the Qin state. There we see the emergence of a ritual called the Big Nuo.
The big nuo.
It was an exorcism ritual, basically. It was held on the very last day of the year with the explicit purpose of expelling illness and evil spirits. And this is very likely where the tradition of the deep clean, the sweeping the dust, come from.
So you're not just cleaning your house, you're spiritually cleansing it.
You're sweeping away the biological and the spiritual debris of the entire past year.
Yeah.
But the formal new year, as we think of it, that really begins in the Han Dynasty.
Right. The Han Dynasty always seems to be where so many of these cultural structures we recognize today really get locked in.
That's absolutely correct. During the Han Dynasty, the festival was formally said to mark the start of the year, called Vengri. We have actual records from an agronomist named Kui Shi in his book Simin Yuling.
And what does he describe?
He describes families gathering to worship their ancestors and a very specific ritual where the children would serve pepper wine to their parents.
Pepper wine, what is that?
It was a type of wine infused with spices, like prickly ash. The belief was that it could drive out pathogens and evil spirits. It was sort of a health tonic as much as it was a celebratory drink.
And it also established the social order of the day.
Exactly. The younger generation serving the older generation, toasting to their longevity. That hierarchy is cemented very early on.
As we move forward through the later dynasties, the technology of the celebration itself starts to change. You mentioned the loud noises to scare away the Nanian.
Right. And the evolution of the firecracker is a perfect example of how technology drives tradition. In the Jin dynasty, and then the northern and southern dynasties, they didn't have gunpowder yet.
So how did they make the noise?
They practiced chusui, staying up all night to guard the year. And to make noise, they would burn bamboo. If you throw a fresh green stalk of bamboo into a fire, the air and sap trapped inside the segments heats up, expands rapidly, and then bursts the wood with a really loud pop.
So that was the original firecracker.
It was literally cracking wood in a fire. That was the state of the art.
Until the Song dynasty.
The Song dynasty was the pivotal moment for this. Gunpowder had been invented and refined by then, and they started packing it into those hollow bamboo tubes to create a much louder, much more reliable artificial explosion.
And then they moved on from bamboo.
Eventually, yes. They replaced the bamboo with rolled paper tubes, creating the bienpao, or the gunpowder whip, that we still see today.
The Song dynasty seems to have added a lot of other things, too.
Oh, it was a period of great innovation for the festival. It also gave us Suinian Kin, which was the practice of giving coin money to children. And we see the widespread use of written spring couplets, those red banners with black calligraphy, which actually evolved from older charms that were carved into peach wood.
It's just this steady accretion of customs, one on top of the other, over centuries. But the timeline isn't completely unbroken, is it? In the modern era, there were actually attempts to erase the holiday entirely.
There were two major disruptions. The first was in 1928. The Kuomintang government tried to abolish the lunar calendar altogether.
Why?
They wanted to switch everything to the Gregorian system to align with the West. The plan was to just move the big holiday to January 1st.
And how did that go?
The public simply ignored them completely. The tradition was just too deep to be changed by government decree.
And the second disruption was much more severe.
Much more. The Cultural Revolution, starting in 1967, the government labeled the festival as one of the four olds, old customs, old culture that had to be destroyed. They actually called for a revolutionized and fighting spring festival.
What does that even mean?
It meant people were not supposed to go home. They weren't supposed to feast. They were told to stay at their work posts and continue working for the revolution. All public celebrations were banned.
But it survived that too.
It did. It went underground,
Wow.
celebrated quietly inside people's homes, and it bounced back with incredible force the moment that era ended. Today, it's more robust than ever.
And the festival itself isn't just that one day. It's a whole sequence. It actually starts weeks in advance.
Right, there's a whole pre-game phase.
It all begins with the Laba Festival.
Yes, on the 8th day of the 12th lunar month. This is the day for eating laba porridge, which is a really hearty mix of nuts, grains, mushrooms. And it's also when you prepare laba garlic.
The green garlic.
That's the one. You soak whole cloves of garlic in vinegar, and over the next few weeks leading up to the new year, they turn this vibrant, beautiful emerald green.
And after Laba, the real work begins.
Then comes the cleaning, sweeping the dust. This usually happens around the 24th day of the last lunar month, and it is absolutely critical. You're sweeping out the hoi.
Which means dust, but it's also a pun.
It's a homophone for bad luck or misfortune. So you are physically sweeping the bad luck of the past year out of your house.
And there's a very strict rule. You have to finish all this cleaning before the new year arrives.
Absolutely. Because once New Year's Day begins, the luck reverses. If you sweep on New Year's Day, you're not sweeping out the old bad luck. You're sweeping the new good luck right out the door. All your brooms, your dustpans, they have to be put away and hidden.
And that same kind of symbolic logic applies to haircuts.
It does. You have to cut your hair before the new year. The word for hair, fa, is the same first character in the phrase fa kai, which means to become wealthy. So if you cut your hair during the festival period, you are symbolically severing your connection to prosperity for the coming year.
There's also the matter of the kitchen god. This is my favorite part of the pantheon because it feels so bureaucratic. It's like cosmic surveillance.
That's a perfect way to describe it. The kitchen god is a deity whose effigy is placed in the stove area, and his job is to watch the family all year long and take notes.
And then he files an annual report.
Exactly. About a week before the new year, on a day called the Little New Year, he ascends to heaven to file his annual performance review on the family with the Jade Emperor, the ruler of heaven.
And obviously the family wants a good report.
So they perform a ritual called Song Shen, sending off the god. They take the old paper effigy of the god and they burn it to send him on his way up. But just before they do, they smear his lips with something sweet, like sugar or sticky candy.
It's a bribe, a divine bribe.
It's a very pragmatic measure. There are two theories. One is that his mouth will be so full of sweet things he can only speak sweet words about the family. The other is that his mouth will be so sticky he can't open it at all to report on any of their sins.
That brings us to the main event, the 15-day cycle. And this is where the details really matter, because it's not just a party. Every single day has a specific function, a specific meaning. It all starts with Chuxi, New Year's Eve.
This is the reunion dinner. It's the gravitational center of that whole Chunyan migration we talked about earlier. Everyone must be home for this meal.
And the food is all symbolic. It's all coded.
Every single dish. You have to have fish. Or you. But the crucial rule is you must not eat the whole fish. You have to leave some left over, usually the head and tail.
Why is that?
Because it connects to the phrase nan, neen, you, which means may there be surpluses every year. Leaving some fish on the plate is a physical demonstration that you have a surplus.
What about in the north? It's all about dumplings, right?
In the north, they eat jiaozi, or dumplings, often at the stroke of midnight. And the reason is because their shape resembles the old silver ingots that were used as currency. So you're eating wealth.
Well, in the south, it's more about the rice cake.
Niango, a glutinous rice cake, because the name Niango sounds exactly like the phrase for a higher year or getting higher year after year, meaning promotions, progress, and growth.
Then midnight strikes. The new year begins.
The first incense is lit at the temples. The doors of the house are sealed to keep the new good luck in. And this is the beginning of Chusui, the vigil, where families stay up all night.
Then day one arrives. This is the big day, the spring festival itself, and it's a day of total taboo.
So many rules. No killing of any kind, which means no fresh meat can be cooked. All the food for day one must be prepared the day before. You absolutely cannot break any ceramics.
And what if you do? If you drop a plate by accident?
You must immediately say auspicious phrases like peace for all seasons or something similar to counteract the terrible omen. This is also the day that the hóngbāo, the red envelopes with money, are distributed.
And there's an etiquette to that as well.
A strict one. They are given by elders and married couples to unmarried juniors and children. And the amounts of money matter. Anything with the number 4 is banned because 4, CI, sounds like the word for death. Amounts with the number 8 are considered very lucky because baba sounds like the word for prosperity.
Day 2 is interesting because it seems to change the social dynamic of the family.
It does. Day 2 is traditionally the day when married daughters visit their own birth parents.
Right.
In the old patriarchal structure, a woman would celebrate New Year's Eve and Day 1 with her husband's family. So Day 2 was the officially designated time for her to go back and reconnect with her own lineage.
It's also a day for wealth.
Yes, it's another day for welcoming the god of wealth. Historically, you'd see beggars carrying pictures of the god of wealth and going door to door shouting, "The god of wealth has come!" and people would give them lucky money.
Then we get to day 3, which is almost an antisocial day.
It's called red mouth, or chiku. It's practically a designated rest day. The superstition says that it's very easy to get into arguments on this day, so it's considered extremely unlucky to visit anyone or to receive guests.
So after the intensity of the first 2 days.
Right, after the reunion dinner and all the visiting on Day 1 and Day 2, Day 3 provides this culturally sanctioned excuse to just stay home, not talk to anyone, and recover.
Day 4 seems to be a transition day, and then we get to day 5, Pau. And this is a major day for business.
It is. Day 5 is the birthday of the god of wealth. In the north, people eat dumplings again to celebrate. But the real focus is on the deity Guan Yu.
Guan Yu was a historical general, wasn't he?
Yes, from the Three Kingdoms period. He was known for his incredible loyalty and righteousness. He's worshipped as a god of wealth, not because he was a merchant, but because commerce relies on trust, loyalty, and integrity.
And that's when businesses reopen.
This is often the day. People set off huge amounts of firecrackers, specifically to get Guan Yu's attention, hoping he'll grant them favor for the business year ahead.
Day 6 feels like a cleanup day, finally.
It's called Horse's Day, and this is when you can finally throw out all the garbage that is accumulated. Remember the sweeping ban. By Day 6, you've got several days of trash built up. Throwing it out on this specific day symbolizes sending away the ghost of poverty.
You're physically removing the waste to ensure poverty doesn't linger in the house for the new year.
That's the logic.
And then day 7 is a universal birthday.
Renri, the common person's birthday, or the birthday of humanity. The creation myth says that the mother goddess Nuwa created human beings on the 7th day. So traditionally, everyone grows 1 year older on this day, not on their actual birthday.
And there are specific foods for this day, too.
Especially in Southeast Asia, in places like Malaysia and Singapore. This is the peak moment for eating yusheng, which is also called lo hei.
The raw fish salad.
The raw fish salad, yes. It has many different ingredients, all symbolic. The whole family stands up around the table, and they use their chopsticks to toss the salad as high into the air as they can, all while shouting auspicious phrases. The belief is the higher you toss, the higher your fortune will rise in the coming year.
We move through day 8, which is often a time for corporate dinners, employers treating their staff, and that leads into another massive celebration on day 9.
Day 9 is the birthday of the Jade Emperor, the supreme ruler of heaven. And for the Hokkien community in particular, this is arguably more important than day 1.
And there's a specific historical reason for that.
There is. There's a legend that says, during a time of great peril, some versions say it was a massacre by pirates, others say it was the Japanese army. A group of Hokkien people hid in a sugarcane plantation. They stayed hidden, and they finally emerged safe and sound on the morning of the 9th day of the new year.
And that day just happened to be the Jade Emperor's birthday.
So they saw it as divine intervention. And because of that, sugarcane became a sacred object for them.
And there's a linguistic link, too.
A crucial one. In the Hokkien dialect, the word for sugarcane, kam chia, sounds almost identical to the word for thank you, kam sia. So on day 9, you will see pairs of whole sugarcane stalks tied to the front of altars in Hokkien homes as a direct offering of thanks for that story of survival.
The whole 15-day cycle finally wraps up on day 15.
The Lantern Festival, or Yuang Sale. This is the first full moon of the new year, and it's a beautiful night festival. People light candles and lanterns to guide the spirits of the ancestors home. They walk the streets carrying elaborate lanterns.
And it's also a day for romance.
Historically, yes, it was considered a sort of Chinese Valentine's Day. In feudal times, young women were usually confined to the house, but they were allowed out on this night to view the lanterns. This created rare opportunities for them to meet potential suitors.
And there's that tradition with the oranges.
A lovely tradition, yes. Single women would write their name or contact information on mandarin oranges and then throw them into a river or a lake with the hope that an eligible young man would fish one out and find them. A sweet taste meant good fortune in finding a match.
We've talked about the days, but we really need to circle back to the language itself. You mentioned the fish and the sugarcane. The entire festival seems to be constructed on a framework of puns.
It absolutely is. The Chinese language, because it's tonal and so rich in homophones, allows for this incredibly dense layering of symbolic meaning. It's almost like sympathetic magic through sound.
A perfect example is the character for fortune, Vu.
Right. You see it pasted on doors everywhere. But it's almost always pasted upside down.
And to an outsider, it just looks like a mistake.
But it's a very clever visual pun. The word in Mandarin for upside down is Dao. The word for to arrive is also pronounced Dao. So by hanging the character for fortune upside down, you're creating a rebus that says fortune arrives.
But there's a regional catch to that.
There is. You have to be careful. In Cantonese, the word for to pour out also sounds like Dao. So if you hang your fortune sign upside down in a Cantonese-speaking community, you might be accidentally implying that you're pouring all your fortune away.
Context is everything.
Always. The same goes for food. You eat a kind of black algae called fat choy because it sounds like prosperity. You eat turnip cakes, lu wogao, because it sounds like good omen. Apples for peace, oranges and tangerines for luck and success. It's all wordplay.
Okay, so what about the taboos in gift giving? If I'm invited to someone's home, what should I absolutely never bring as a gift?
Number 1, never, ever bring a clock.
A clock? What?
The phrase in Mandarin to give a clock is songzong. This sounds exactly like the phrase songzong, which means to attend a funeral ritual or to send off a dying parent. It's basically a death curse. It's the worst possible gift.
Wow. Okay, no clocks. What else?
You should also avoid giving pairs. The word for pair, li, is a homophone for the word li that means to separate or to divorce. So you don't want to wish that on a couple.
Shoes are also bad, I hear.
Shoes can be risky. The word for shoes, zi, sounds like a sigh of grief, or in some dialects like the word for rough or evil. It can imply you're wishing them a rough road ahead, or that you want them to walk away from you.
And there's one very specific color-coded item of clothing to avoid.
The green hat.
Yeah.
Never, ever give a man a green hat. There's an old idiom, wearing a green hat, which means that a man is being cuckolded, that his wife or partner is cheating on him. It's one of the deepest insults you could possibly offer.
So we stick to the red envelopes. We mentioned the hóngbāo earlier, but where did that specific tradition originate?
It comes from another demon story, a different one. There was a demon named Su, different from Nian, and its whole thing was that it would come out at night and touch children on the head while they slept, which would cause them to develop a fever and become foolish or sick.
So parents needed a way to protect them.
Right. So what they started doing was taking 8 copper coins, stringing them together, and wrapping them in red paper, and then placing this packet under the child's pillow. The legend says that when the demon Sui reached for the child's head, the coins would emit a flash of golden light that would scare the demon away.
So the money was originally a talisman.
Exactly. The money was originally called Ya Sui Kan, which meant money to suppress the demon Su. Over time, the character for the demon was replaced by a different character that's also pronounced Su but means year or age. So now the name means money to pass the year safely.
That tradition has probably undergone the biggest technological shift of all in the last decade.
Without a doubt. It's been completely digitized. In the mid-2010s, the messaging app WeChat introduced virtual red envelopes, and it completely gamified the tradition.
How so?
Well, you can send a red envelope with a certain amount of money to a group chat, but the amount each person gets is random. So people have to frantically tap to snatch a portion of it before it's all gone.
Huh.
It just exploded in popularity.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2017 alone, over 100 billion of these digital envelopes were exchanged.
It's incredible how the tradition adapts.
It shows how adaptable the culture is. The medium changes from copper coins and red paper to digital credits on a phone screen, but the core function of social bonding, of sharing good fortune, remains exactly the same.
Let's look at that adaptability on a global scale. We've talked a lot about the celebrations in China, but this is truly a worldwide phenomenon.
Oh, absolutely. The diaspora has planted these roots deep in every continent on Earth. In Southeast Asia, the celebrations are sometimes even more traditional and elaborate than what you might see in parts of China now.
Like in Malaysia and Singapore.
In Malaysia, you have the wonderful open house custom, where people of all races and religions open their homes to friends and neighbors to share food. In Singapore, the Chingay Parade is this massive multicultural national event.
And Indonesia is a really fascinating case.
It is, because under President Suharto's New Order regime, from 1967 to 1998, all public expressions of Chinese culture, including the New Year, were banned.
So the festival was forced underground.
For over 30 years. So when it was finally legalized again and became a national holiday called Imlek, it resurged with this tremendous power and emotion. They have a tradition there called Sian Kui that involves water splashing, which is quite unique to that region.
And what about beyond Asia?
San Francisco has the oldest and largest parade outside of Asia. It dates all the way back to the gold rush in 1858. For the early Chinese immigrants, it was a way to showcase their culture and assert their presence in a new land.
And in Europe.
London has the biggest celebration in Europe, centered around Trafalgar Square. But the one that often surprises people is Mauritius.
An island nation in East Africa.
Yes. Mauritius is the only country in Africa where the Spring Festival is a statutory public holiday. The Sino-Mauritian population is quite small, maybe 3% of the total, but the festival is embraced and celebrated by the whole island, with dragon parades in the capital, Port Louis.
It shows how the festival can transcend its ethnic origins and become part of a new national fabric.
It really does.
We've covered so much: the history, the myths, the day-by-day rituals, and the global spread. But I want to bring it back to the individual for a final thought. The source material we looked at mentioned something about the zodiac animals, specifically about the year of the pig.
Ah, yes, the zodiac. It's a 12-year cycle of animals, and each one comes with its own reputation and set of associations. The year of the pig is traditionally viewed with a certain degree of caution, at least in the public sphere.
As an unlucky year.
Not necessarily for individuals, but it's often considered an unlucky year for general affairs, for big public projects or ventures. The traditional advice is that during a pig year, one should be very deliberate, reevaluate decisions carefully before acting.
So it's not about being paralyzed by fate.
Not at all. It's about encouraging deliberation. The belief actually encourages people to take control of their own fate by being more thoughtful, more prepared, and less impulsive. It's a call for caution and wisdom.
It really seems like that's the thread running through this entire thing. Whether you're scaring away the monster Nan, or meticulously sweeping the dust, or tossing a salad as high as you can, it's all about human agency. It's about trying to create order and good fortune in what can be a chaotic world.
It is. It's all about continuity. We perform the rituals of the past to try and ensure the prosperity of the future. And most importantly, we do it together. That migration, the Chunyan, it proves that the ultimate form of good luck, the ultimate goal of the whole festival, is simply being in the same room with your family.
That is a perfect place to leave it. Thank you for walking us through the immense world of the Spring Festival.
It was my pleasure.
Thanks for listening.